New York's terrible governor, Andrew Cuomo, is terrible. I've said this many, many times. He's been going through a slew of problems recently, a slew of them. His medical officials of the state basically admitted that they were withholding evidence, I would say, that pointed towards more deaths being attributed to the terrible decisions that Andrew Cuomo made. For example, 16,000, as high as 16,000, possibly, maybe even more, 16,000 elderly residents have died because of the decisions that Andrew Cuomo made in handling coronavirus. What he did was he basically sent sick people into nursing homes, so they ended up infecting all these other sick people and killing them. And older people, who are the most vulnerable in society, over 50, 60 years old, is very vulnerable to this thing, especially if they've got pre-existing conditions. And that's exactly what happened. Not only that, there's been a slew of allegations, sexual harassment in nature, against Governor Cuomo in New York. And he's put out a statement recently saying, "I now understand that my interactions may have been insensitive or too personal, and that some of my comments, given my position, made others feel in ways I never intended." So he sort of admits to what he was sort of did, even if the intentions weren't there. And it's kind of the walls are closing in on this guy. I'll put it that way. The walls are closing in on him. The Democrat establishment, including Nancy Pelosi, also came out and said she believes the victim, and a ton of other people. I think I saw some Hollywood stars and some other Bridget Gillibrand. Yeah, Bridget Gillibrand. She ran for the Democrat nomineeship for president. She also slammed him. She's very progressive. This isn't great for him. It's the walls are closing in on him, and he's a terrible governor, honestly, both on the way he's handled stuff, but also on a personal level. He's quite mafioso, and this is what happens. This is what happens. Live an honorable life. This is not what he's been doing, and I like talking about. Why am I talking about a governor in a city I've never been to that's thousands of miles away? Because I see a lot of similarities, and I'm not saying sexually, I'm saying in terms of the misdecisions in managing COVID, a lot of similarities with our very own Premier in Victoria, Dan Andrews. I think his mismanagement of COVID has been terrible. Again, I'm not saying anything about sexual harassment or accusing. We haven't seen anything like that from down there yet. However, we have been seeing a ton of things in our parliament recently, which is disgusting. Whether it's the Labor front bench, whether it's the Liberal Party, it's been disgusting seeing what's happened, and there have been a slew of things happening. In these cases, I usually like to see the police handle this. I don't take allegations very seriously, but in this case, I take every allegation very seriously, but the police need to handle it. There's still a law in our country and in America, and that needs to be followed through. And in Governor Cuomo's case, the only reason I'm sort of condemning him now is because he sort of admits it in a much longer statement, this is just a segment of. In other news, Scott Morrison released a report into aged care, which has been much needed. 148 recommendations have come out of this Royal Commission. And it was very interesting to listen to the press briefing of him announcing that. They've released 8 volumes of it, and there's a lot there. The 148 recommendations aren't something you can just skim through on it. It's not a 1-pager or a 2-pager. It's like almost like an 80-page document, I think. And I was having a look through it, and it's very thorough. They couldn't put a number on how much money it's going to cost to actually fix these problems. But what it did reveal is that this is a report that Scott Morrison wanted to be done. That's what he says. And he wanted it to be done so we could get some answers on why they're being mistreated. And I think there was something like 18% of residents that answered there were 10,000 submissions for this Royal Commission from the public, And I think 18% of the submissions or something, or people in these nursing homes, they said that they had been assaulted or something while in the nursing homes, or unwantedly touched or something along that line. That came up in the press conference. Really disgusting stuff, and it's not what the people who literally helped build the nation deserve. I mean, they deserve the utmost respect. Taxpayers. This is not how I'd want to be, taken care of in the future. We need to do better. And I hope that Scott Morrison will actually endeavour on that path. Some would say no, he wants to kill us. I want to see this country flourish, and if this 148 recommendations is something that we can hold the government's feet to the fire, because it's a report they asked for, then I'm going to do that. I want to see some good stuff come out of this, because I don't plan on putting my mum in a nursing home, and by no means, because I've seen how bad it is. I mean, it's terrible. It's a terrible decision if you do it in the state that it's in right now. And I wish the government all the best, Labor or Liberal, in fixing this, because this is not a partisan issue. This is something that needs to be solved. So, not last weekend, but the weekend before, we had the Millions March, and it was against, obviously, everything that's been happening COVID-related. And it was hilarious to watch, because I went down to Sydney. It was really great to do these events, and the media reported it as being no one was there. It was hundreds of people that turned up. And that's just not what I saw. I saw, at least in Sydney, 2,000 to 3,000 people. And it was entertaining watching the media coverage of this, because in all the states around Australia, they basically said a few hundred people. Very entertaining, very, very, very entertaining to watch the fake news go off. But it was a great march in Sydney. We did a march around the city, and the police were great. They were really good. Not one arrest that day. They were very well organised. The organisers of the march did very well. Full credit to, I think Michael Sims was the main organiser. I think there were others, but I know Michael Sims, and they had speakers, and he organised it well with the police, and it was well managed. And the police, when they needed, they cornered off streets when we walked past, and we did a trip around a couple blocks, and then we came to Hyde Park, and we had a very peaceful protest, and the police took care of us, and it was good. It was really good. We said what we needed to say, and it was great. And I'm not going to lie, it would have been great to see even more people out there. After all, they did call it the Millions March, but it was good to be out there meeting people. I love these events so much. I love meeting so many different people. I don't agree with most of the people there about vaccines. I just don't. A ton of them were from IMOP there, and I have the utmost respect for the IMOP people. Especially Michael O'Neill, for what they're doing. It's not easy to talk about this issue. But in terms of the topic of vaccines, I've had all my vaccines as a kid. I didn't take the flu shot. I haven't had any issues. I've got no underlying conditions. In terms of the reason I was there on the weekend, it wasn't because I agreed with them on a lot of that stuff, because a lot of them oppose all vaccines. I believe in freedom. I don't want to see people coerced. I believe in individual responsibility and assessing the risks on your own. And what we're seeing from the government is not that. It is not that. And it was really good to see so many people around Australia getting out there, thousands of people. Now, some of the things we can expect to see, and this is a post from Lauren Easton out of Israel. She said that I was sent a photo from Israel, on the left from friends who cannot believe what they saw on beaches in Tel Aviv today. If you don't believe that Israel is creating a two-class society, you better check this out. This is reminiscent of the apartheid regime in South Africa. So they've got these, for those of you who can't see, they've got these seats on the beach, and on them is printed reserved for vaccinated people only. And it's kind of troubling, guys. It's kind of troubling. What does it say? City of Durban, under Section 35 of the Durban Beaches bylaws, this bathing area is reserved for the sole use of the members of the white race group. That's from South Africa, the image on the right. I don't want to see this sort of stuff with the vaccinated stuff. Now, I don't know about the greater politics happening in Israel. Lauren, you probably know better than myself. But I don't like seeing things being prohibited from other people. I don't like seeing it, especially in a public place like this. And we're seeing sort of stuff happening very soon. I mean, Qantas has announced